Hey everybody, so Nvidia came out recently and showed a presentation of their brand new DLSS 5 technology. If you're caught up with all this, then good, you can watch or skip to the next timestamp there in the description. If not caught up, then long story short, it's the latest in the line of AI-powered tools meant to enhance game visuals, but the reception has been mixed at best because much of the images shown look like AI-generated pictures. Which, I mean, yeah, it is an AI tool, it's just that a lot of people, myself included, were expecting something that enhanced what was there rather than dramatically changing it and making it look like your bog standard AI-generated picture or video online, through the lens of just photorealism. That's basically what it comes down to when it comes to this. It's just photorealism. It takes any picture, any valley, any face, whatever it is that you're looking at, and filters it through a photorealistic lens. Sometimes in an overly smooth way too, hence why it looks like an AI-generated picture. Make no mistake, I can have a good laugh at those memes that take a questionable character design and put them through AI. Smash AT likes to do that all the time with his "Hey, I asked ChatGPT to make her beautiful" posts. But that's social media memes. Turning video game characters into uncanny valley crap isn't exactly what I expected from technology that has had billions invested into it and that is at the root cause of PC gaming skyrocketing in price. If the cost of tools like these are people not being able to afford to use them in the first place, then what's the point? Now, of course, this is optional, but at the same time, it's not. That's really the biggest thing here, and the biggest offense. It's that, hey man, just turn it off. And throughout this video, I want to explain why that's not exactly correct. And by the way, it's not going away, like, make no mistake, this is here, it is a piece of technology that exists, and it is what it is. It's just that I want to voice my issues with it and try to explain what the reasons are. It's kind of like microtransactions. They're here to stay too. They're not going to go anywhere. It doesn't matter how much we complain or boycott, these companies aren't going to stop putting them in the games. However, I'm also going to voice why I have a problem with them every time. Because that's kind of all you can do when it comes to controlling an issue without letting it become a bigger problem in the future. And given the memes and the reactions that we've seen online to this, I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in it either. But social media discourse around this has gone out of the window, so today I wanted to just rant for a bit and explain why I have issues with it without making this into a stupid culture war issue, which is what sadly some people are doing, because of course they are. It's the same that happened last December when Larian and Sandfall got attacked by blue sky mobs. So here we go. The way I see it, I can understand why you'd look at the differences and see an appeal in it, because it is a big jump. I don't have an issue with that at all. What I do have an issue with is that it's some kind of a problem to not find it appealing. If you say it looks bad, then this gets diverted into, again, culture war cringe or console war cringe. The kind of thing that gets attached to, you can't afford it, that's why you don't like it. Meanwhile, we have so much more to talk about that lies at a deeper level than this. Actual palpable industry problems. So I'd like to cut through all that and just get to the point. People are just being incredibly short-sighted about this and then bogging the entire situation down to culture war nonsense where if you are based and you're against wokeism in video games and society and all that jazz, then you will see this as an incredible thing, a balls-to-the-walls technological advancement and the absolute future of gaming. And then if you don't think that way, if you look at this and you think it's retarded or you don't like the differences all that much, then you're a wokey, you're a blue sky leftist who just hates AI. Even I've been hit with this kind of response. People who don't know me from Adam, people who don't even read the arguments as to why I don't like this, just defaulting to that deranged assessment, like, yeah, sure guys, I'm woke now. I was totally based on Monday, but then Tuesday came along and oops, there goes the neighborhood. Daz is woke now, it's over, design bros. Next week he'll be listing his pronouns on his bio and making a video about how LGBTQ+ stories are so important in today's gaming landscape. I'll also be delisting my 1348X Voto review. It was too based, way too based. So anyway, that's an annoyance that's been going on, and at surface level, I can get it, because yeah, I've seen people be totally unhinged and attack anything that is AI with completely backwards arguments, or even the lack of arguments. It's just like, oh, it's AI, it's bad then. I mean, Jesus, I was there last December defending Larian and Sandfall over their controversies where mobs came at them for minimal AI experimentation during game development. They even wrote life threats on comments. I had to blur them from my video, and the same happened apparently here too. At least it's been reported that some Nvidia employees have been getting threats. This is major loser behavior. This is blue sky behavior, and I'm obviously not a part of that. I know these people exist out there, but AI in general, not even just in gaming, should not be getting bogged down to stupid partisan cringe. It shouldn't be a lefty versus righty kind of issue. This is something I already warned against on those aforementioned videos. I warned that shit like this might happen, and deeper discussion cannot even be had about its uses, whether it be in gaming or live society in general, because brain-dead bottom-of-the-barrel IQ lobotomites will wash down the entire matter into culture war bullshit, where if you're against it, again, you're woke. If you are in favor of it, you're, I mean, what is the new word? Bigot, Austrian painter, alt-right, I mean, what is the new term? I don't know, they keep evolving. Godzilla probably, I don't know. I'm convinced that most of the accounts doing this kind of discourse are goddamn bots from India too, by the way. I just can't prove it yet. But even taking these people out of the equation, I see a lot of regular folks also being short-sighted. They're just seeing the graphics, they're comparing both images, and in their minds they're ascribing the DLSS 5 ones to be better looking than the other ones because their ideas of better graphics are just whichever version looks more realistic. This alone is already like a whole thing to discuss, because at the end of the day it also touches on subjectivity. Some people might think this way, other people might not. It is what it is, it's normal. I'm definitely not on that field though. Someone made a mock-up AI thing of what GTA 4 could end up looking like, or games like it that use DLSS 5 to generate realistic lighting, and I look at this and I just don't like it. This looks like shit to me. It's not that it's not objectively realistic, of course it is. Of course it looks more advanced than the original graphics. That's not why it looks bad to me. Just looks bad for a game. I genuinely don't see the appeal in this. I don't see the value in defaulting games to photorealism slop. I like games to look like games. I love it when developers manage to add atmospheric weight through the colors and lighting tricks that they manually design. Like Silent Hill 2, for example. It's difficult to explain, but I just don't find that much value in realism, especially when it's realism that's just there to be superficial. Now, the excuse for this is that it's up to the developer. If the developer doesn't want it in, then they don't have to use it. It's totally optional, but that's not really true either, and I'd like to discuss why. It's not up to the developer, it's up to the company, and how often have we seen companies do utterly idiotic decisions? This is the biggest thing, this is the whole point of this video, so please bear with me here. This is all about intentions, and we have had no shortage of examples of higher-ups in these companies making the objectively wrong decisions time and time again. Shit, just go down my channel's list of videos, pick one at random, and it might just be about one such instance. The takeover of microtransactions started as an option too. Now it dominates the entire online game space as multiplayer games cease to exist, and what we have now are live services. Microtransactions and the various other forms of monetization that exist became the whole entire point behind online video games. We barely get online games that release complete and are just a good time for gamers to enjoy. You need to go hit the independent market for this. The big publishers have all dedicated their existing franchises and upcoming games to be monetizable games as a service slop. You could say, hey, just don't buy them, and you can bet your goddamn ass that I don't. But that has not stopped the industry from being impacted by it as a whole. For instance, Deus Ex. There was a sequel that was supposed to happen. But because that sounds like a less profitable idea than yet another attempt at live services, the publisher, Embracer Group, cancelled this sequel and got the studio working on some random live service. Many such cases. Sony should be making more single-player games, which is what they built their current PlayStation, ecosystem around, with the dominance of the PlayStation 4 last generation, are also investing into live services. There are games that could be getting made, but that aren't, because of this kind of focus. Higher-ups made these decisions, not developers and certainly not players. They drip-fed us games like this for years. We pushed back when they pushed too far, but every single time they managed to gain a little bit of ground on us anyway. And now we are where we're at, because it became the standard. It's so normal now for a live service to release incomplete and packed with monetization that if you bring it up as a serious point in the review, people don't even take you seriously. Hell, there's a whole new generation of gamers that doesn't even understand the point behind Counter-Strike or multiplayer modes for standalone games like Red Dead Redemption's multiplayer mode, for example. And by that I mean the first Red Dead Redemption that was packed with multiple modes for you to enjoy. Not the sequel that just tried to monetize the shit out of it like they did with GTA Online. Because they don't understand the concept of gaming without having something to grind for, some season pass to unlock premiums, some premium currency to collect and use at an e-store of some kind or whatever. They don't get the basic concept of playing a game because it's fun to play, while all the content in it is unlockable naturally. Like it's not drip-fed to you, it's not grinded for, it's not behind a paywall, it's just there. You play it and you just kind of get a few things. And most importantly, has an endpoint. Except for cases like Counter-Strike where more content is created by the community for free for years to come. Nowadays, a game reaches the end of its content cycle, like you run out of things to collect and it's like, hey, what's the point of playing this game anymore? Like seriously, a lot of people these days don't play for fun, they play for unending content. They got trained and used to the slop. That's about as long as a multiplayer has to live for these days. It lives for as long as it has content. If you hit a dry spot like our creators is in at the moment, then even these games' most loyal streamers who formed their careers through that game will turn their back on it and say that there's no point in playing anymore. And why am I rambling about monetization here? Well, because that's part of the point of what so many people are missing here, while they busy themselves making this shit about woke versus anti-woke. These companies in gaming have proven themselves to not give a damn time and time again. Even if it's a good one that delivers solid games, they have the same poison AAA mentality of making overpriced garbage or cutting corners to deliver as little as possible at as high of a price as they can justify. So many games have been releasing in awful shape, especially on PC, totally unoptimized, many of them on Unreal Engine 5, and then what do they say? What's their excuse or their solution? Well, Capcom last year went into it with the mentality of using the same kinds of Nvidia AI-powered tools to achieve the bare minimum acceptable standard of 60 FPS at Full HD. Not even Quad HD and never mind 4K, just the basic Full HD. And they weren't the only ones. I also covered Randy Pitch for doing the same thing for Borderlands 4 when it came out. The game ran poorly and people were rightfully pissed. What was his response? Oh, just use FrameGen, guys. Jeez, what are you complaining about? What am I, a game developer? It is insanely short-sighted to not realize that this is exactly how this technology is going to be used. It's insane that we have people who will look at some photorealistic shit in a game, something they can see by just looking out a goddamn window, and suddenly forget the nature of the industry that we are in. The amount of times we have been swindled by corpo fucks ahead of these studios and publishers, no matter which of them they are, shouldn't even be something that I have to mention. It shouldn't be something that I have to remind people of. Hey guys, remember when we were swindled last week, last month, last year, last decade? Come on, guys. This kind of technology is usually a ticket for them to work even less on their games, and then just tell people that the intended way to play is by turning on these features. And if you're not doing so, like if you're on console, or if you don't have the latest and greatest graphics card, or you do but you want it to last a little longer instead of sweating it, then you're playing the game wrong. And it is your problem. It's not on them for not actually learning how to optimize a game and also not wanting to spend money on artists to actually design the way the game is meant to look. No, it's your fault for not having like $2,000 to spend on these GPUs and RAM, which are also constantly increasing in price because of the development of technology like this. Oh, I'm sorry player, you don't have the GTR DD Gen Omega 9000 graphics card? Well, that's too bad. Have you thought about upgrading? Because it is actually necessary to run the game as intended. How about you just intend to make a competent video game instead, big dog? There's another aspect to this that's also been really hypocritical. The amount of times I saw a game get called Sony slop for just featuring one of or various of the following features is crazy. Feature number 1, a push for photorealistic visuals. Feature number 2, a grounded feel going for immersion. Feature number 3, an over-the-shoulder camera to enhance the previous features. This is even why Resident Evil Requiem, despite doing very well, was being called a Sony slop type of game. A game that is doing what Sony should be doing, but better. All manner of brain rot, frankly, I find this discourse cringe. I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. Console war talk makes my balls crawl inside my body.
Good lord.
It's like watching a grown man throwing a tantrum because his wife doesn't let him take home a toy truck or something like that. It's really cringy. But it is what it is, and it's what a lot of people latch on to. And worse than the cringe is the hilarious instances of double standards where now pushing for graphics instead of everything else is a good thing. Suddenly, it's no longer just Sony cringe for trying to mask bland gameplay with hyper-realistic visuals, because now it's Nvidia doing it with DLSS 5, and oh my goodness, look how much better it looks than the Sony slop games. They've even been doing this with bad games, guys. Like, come on, man. This has been the most disappointing thing to see, and a perfect example of how this whole thing is going to go in the future. A perfect see-through example of how it works, of how the industry is going to use these people and bottom-of-the-barrel standards to hype up their low-effort garbage with visual fidelity. Because Nvidia's video showcasing this technology had to use existing video games that partnered with them. That's why Resident Evil 9 Requiem was featured. Capcom partnered with them. But you know who also partnered with them? Ubisoft and Bethesda, with Assassin's Creed Shadows, one of the goddamn memes of 2025, and Starfield, one of the memes of 2023, albeit to a lesser degree than Shadows. So now we got these people showing off videos of these god-awful games and drooling all over how they look, even though they're not even worth putting time into. It's not visuals that made Assassin's Creed Shadows shit. Shadows actually looked amazing when it comes to graphics, I said so in my review. Great draw distances, lots of detail, a pretty world to look at overall, but none of that matters. The game is just bad. Fuck do I care that now looking at the world looks like looking at a satellite feed from Google Maps because of the realistic lighting. I don't care about that. Starfield got an even bigger glow up because that game's NPCs and characters were so ugly and outdated already in 2023. They were a total joke, and now with the DLSS 5, they look better. They do that meme, you know, the thing that I mentioned earlier with Smash AT and all his posts doing it to ugly characters, generating a picture of them to be more attractive. That's what the DLSS 5 is doing to Starfield, except no titties, so it ain't even worth the hype to begin with. Now we've got people showing these clips off like, oh yeah baby, look at Starfield, oh man. These people are really making Todd Howard so happy right now. They're proving his and the Ubisoft dude's point. You don't gotta work hard to make a game worth playing, you just need to throw in the photorealism Instagram filter and retards will buy it to bask in the glory of never seen before video game graphics. Even if some of them complain later like, hey man, this game sucks, there's no depth or gameplay in it to be had at all. Doesn't matter because the $70 are already spent. There's also been video clips going around I'm sorry. It's just that this one is really funny. There's been video clips going around of it being used on the Oblivion remaster, and it looks like a comedy skit because we got the dude commentating that, oh, we've never seen an elf look so real before.
Character rendering again gets a gigantic revamp, I'd say.
Yeah.
And
you've never seen elves look this realistic. It's crazy.
That's the bottom line, yeah. Also, it's really interesting to see the kind of, you know, the occlusion.
Elves aren't meant to look real, you Oblivion's Unreal Engine 5 makeover was already debated a lot last year because of how it removed a lot of the artistic intent that the original game had. Cyrodiil was a place that was drenched in color. It was important for the setting itself. It was meant to evoke a lush land brimming with life and ancient magic. Unlike Skyrim's harsher environments, Cyrodiil was meant to give high fantasy. With Unreal Engine 5's makeover, just fucking slapping the default photorealism look, all of this was lost. Now the once green, lush and lovely landscape was instead filled with patches of dirt and dead grass, because #realism. Wow, ain't that great, I love it so much. What else do we want to spruce up with realism? Shit, maybe we should just end the game right at the start, make the guards move our character to another cell, and voila, game over. It's the realistic thing to do after all. Certain constructions that contrasted with the environment were now just piles of rocks blending in with the rest of the dark, brownish and flat, greenish scenery, and oh my god, don't get me started with the characters. With DLSS 5, this shit only makes it even worse. That original visual identity is even further erased. We got elves looking like goddamn homeless dudes you find at like 3 in the morning at a gas station, or like Asmongold after being forced to drink water. And the thing about it is that you can't even talk about the developer intention, why you can even be like, the artistic intention cannot be compromised because the developers, the studio, are the ones who have to consent to it. Well, here's an example of Bethesda consenting to it when it's clearly not what it's intended to be. But they do it anyway, because why wouldn't they? It's like an easy exploit. It gets more eyes on your game with less work on your part as the developer. But Days, it's optional. Again, guys, when you give a company a tool that allows for this level of exploitation, I don't think it'll be optional for long. I think it'll be forced because they will rely on it a lot. It won't be a cherry on top of the cake type of thing for gamers, for those who can afford it and want to use it. It'll be the entire cake, and those who don't use it, or who cannot use it, will just be left with an even shittier cake. Now let's talk about how the cake itself is affected by this. Standardization is another big thing we need to talk about here. That's actually another problem I have with this, and one that I know a lot of people do too, but again, are suddenly forgetting or being ultra short-sighted about it. One of the problems with Unreal Engine 5 is the standardization of games, or slopification, or whatever word you edgy boys want to use. Regardless of the term, what it means is how samey so many games that use it look. You can go play something like Oblivion Remaster and find the same kind of textures and lighting you'll find while playing Mafia: The Old Country. And speaking of Mafia: The Old Country, it's the exact same look that you will find in a recent 1348 Ex Voto, which is also the same kind of thing that you can find in Echoes of the End, and oh boy, I could go on and on, because it's just a common issue, it's a string. And you wanna know what the funniest part is? It's not even inherent to the engine. It's more so the fault of the developers. Because instead of striving for their own visual identity by creating their own styles or by designing their atmospheric feel through their own work on lighting and etc., they just use the default Unreal Engine 5 look. In other words, it's entirely optional for them to go for the default or for them to make their own visual style, and yet here we are. And so that's how you get like 10 different games that struggle to differentiate from one another. You could just blame the developers, you could just but this is the fault of the devs, so don't buy those games and support the ones that differentiate themselves. But that's pointless, because you cannot beat human nature, and you cannot beat the nature of the corporate machine. The corporate machine doesn't want you to go and visualize your own game. It doesn't want you to waste time going out of your way to create a unique product. It just wants you to hurry the f up and get it done as fast as possible so they can ship the game out. Enter the hypocrisy of it all over again. Unreal Engine 5 getting flack for this became a thing. That's where the term UE5 slop came from. And I never saw a bunch of Nancy boys coming out in groups getting mad at this type of criticism, the way that they've been coming out in defense of DLSS 5. And both of them kinda do the same thing. This tool will only standardize video game visuals even more. Shit, you can already see it in the examples that they showed. All the games they showed suddenly lost their visual identities and became the same thing, photorealism. And in the case of faces like the ones from Claire and Leon in Resident Evil or the playable character in Hogwarts Legacy, they just became the default AI-generated prompt. It's like the same thing, you should even give it a try yourselves if you can. Take a character, feed it into Grok or whatever, tell Grok to make it look realistic, and that's what comes out. That's why people were calling it AI slop, not because it's by default AI, but because it looked like the crap spammy X accounts spend all their days posting. And yes, I know a lot of wokies with like 36 flags in their bio are somewhere in the middle of this, but it doesn't matter. They didn't matter back in December and they don't matter now. The scale is completely different. There's far more people speaking out against it right now or just memeing on this than the wokies back in December over some stupid placeholder stuff in Expedition 33. Besides, the most important part, back in December, there were zero arguments as to why it was bad. It was just bad because AI bad, so Larian and Sandfall are also bad. That's all that wokies have to offer the discourse. They don't know why they hate AI, they just been trained to do it. Me personally though, I don't hate it at all. I think there's many good uses for it, I just don't think that this one will be a good one. And that's something you can thankfully find online too. It's not just AI hatred from an ideological standpoint, it's just, hey, this thing here, it sucks and here's why it's a problem. But back to the point, this is just another tool to make every game look like every other game. So in the end, what we're left with is, number one, a tool that companies can't wait to use regardless of whether or not the artists want them to. Like, let's face it, if an artist said no, this isn't the intended look of the character, the company wouldn't care. If DLSS 5 is the new fad and can make any game look real in one simple button click, they're going to use it even if it botches characters' faces or completely alters the mood of an area. Number two, a tool that companies will abuse to cut back on the amount of work that they have to get done. It's already happening now. Oh, I'm sorry player, the game is running at ass FPS? Well, turn on FrameGen. Oh, you can't or you don't want to because it's totally unjustified to sweat your hardware over a basic video game? Too bad, sucker. This'll just be an open door with a rolled out red carpet for games to look like X-Voto by default and then expect you guys to turn on the AI feature to make it bearable. And number three, a tool that takes games that often already look way too much like one another because of the industry's obsession with Unreal Engine 5, an obsession born of the last 2 points where companies would rather default to it instead of using their own proprietary engines, but whatever. So a tool that takes games that often already feel unoriginal and further standardizes their look to photorealism. You know that nifty thing we're able to do where we look at gameplay of a game and we can figure out which game it is from, unless it's from more obscure indie games or whatever? Them days are coming to a close, boys. And finally, overall, just another tool for corporations in gaming to happily use in their efforts to make a polished turd sell for $80 instead of $20 because hey, look how polished it looks. It looks so polished I can see my boredom reflected back at me. At the end of the day, the technology is already here. They're aiming for a fall release to be able to work on single GPUs because currently it actually doesn't work at all. It requires 2 top-G graphics cards to do what little it does. Some people like to say, folks said the same about ray tracing and then ray tracing became the standard. Personally, it hasn't. Every time I gamed on a console, I chose the performance version with it turned off and I never really missed it. Now that I have a PC, I could use it more often, but I've also used it before and the differences were very small. Mostly, I only noted it in interiors. I have seen examples where it worked and the difference was actually really big, such as Metro Exodus, and make no mistake, when it comes to taking screenshots, that stuff makes photo mode look really impressive. I'm sure DLSS 5 will be the same. but I'm not out here to take pictures, I'm out here to play video games. And in general, I've been more than fine with games that had their lighting weaved by hand. There's no shortage of examples of games with beautiful lighting that was done manually. And that's not to mention all the games that are totally stylized and wouldn't even be transformative into photorealism, which is a lot of the big games that we've been seeing recently doing big numbers. That's generally been the theme lately, big companies fumbling major $70 and $80 releases while indies take their lunch because they focus on gameplay and storytelling rather than on visual fidelity with bare bones, slow and often uninspired gameplay, or overdone in the cases where they chase trends. I'd rather see them focus on this kind of thing, on making better games, not better graphics. Of course Nvidia isn't responsible for that, but at least they could be working on making these goddamn things be cheaper instead of even more expensive. And in the cases of games, please, focus on writing better stories too, and finding ways of being more efficient so we could get like trilogies again, but without having to wait like 5 to 8 years for each installment. There's so many things I'd rather see a focus on in the games industry, but those are all boring to investors, and that's the problem. Investors aren't swayed by whether a story is really good or whether the world building of an RPG goes hard enough to spawn an entire franchise. We're not back in the late 90s or the early 2000s anymore. Now we're here in 2026, the age of piss, and so investors will go towards visual fidelity just as they already did before, because that clicks immediately. That makes suits who don't play video games clap like seals, and apparently, or rather sadly, it makes some gamers clap like seals too. The same gamers who then go online years later and complain that a game sucks because it's not fun. Gee, I wonder why this is. I wonder if this visual fidelity culture has anything to do with it. And therein lies the last closing point here. Everything has to be a thing. Sadly, we can't just have optional shit. Truly optional. This gets shown off and it immediately must be pushed to become the future of gaming. Funniest bit in all of this is, if you were to make a list of problems plaguing the games industry today, visuals would be the last thing on that list. Graphics have declined a bit, maybe. I guess you could say that, because if you go back and look at Assassin's Creed Unity and a Batman Arkham Knight, you'll see two games people like to bring up as open-world games that looked better 10 years ago than what open-world games do now. But in general, games look terrific. I played some Death Stranding 2 recently, just as an example, and that shit is crazy, just off the top of my head. And you know what? You can probably slap a DLSS 5 filter on top and make it look even more appealing. But is it really worth it? And more importantly, is it worth the sacrifice of never having games that look like Death Stranding 2 again? Because of an over-reliance on this tool to cover up blemishes and misrepresent the final product? Point is, visuals aren't a problem at all. Instead of focusing on solving the problems at the top, we are once again focusing on visual fidelity. Then games suck and people get mad. The fuck did you expect? Miracles? Again, those only exist in the Bible, sweetheart. I'll give you something new to expect. Expect bad games to be priced even higher, because with technology like this, they can literally show it off looking like a premium game. Premium look, premium price, that's usually how it goes. We get what we pay for, truly. But anyway, that's it for this video. I just had to rant about this whole thing and, I don't know, put some shit into perspective here, because it has been beyond annoying to see this get turned into a culture war issue. The discourse around this shouldn't be bogged down to being woke or anti-AI if you complain. This is corpo dick riding at its best, and it's embarrassing. Corpos that don't care about you at all and are salivating at the thought of promoting their games with that shit on, and then release them looking like goddamn Roblox. Alright, I won't be disingenuous. Not Roblox, but certainly Watch Dogs. They want to promote their games like Ubisoft promoted Watch Dogs, then lift the veil and show that it doesn't look like that at all, but in a legal way where they can just be like, oh no, that's with DLSS 5 enabled, you know, the way it's meant to be played. Hell, now I'm even worrying about whether or not we'll be able to call this out without console war nonsense, like trying to call out Ubisoft and getting hit with a shill going, heh, that's because your PC is not powerful enough, peasant. Go buy a console instead. I better just switch this off here before I rant some more. With that said, I'm out of here. I hope to God that I'm wrong, but pattern recognition is immaculate when it comes to gaming, and this is looking like more of a problem than an evolution in the current reality of the games industry. If you enjoyed the video though, drop a like. Even if you disagree, I appreciate you listening all the same. Thanks for watching and have yourselves a good day out there. Take care.